everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. It's my contribution for the combined Artistic Stampers and Pootlers blog hop. Now, the Artistic Stampers are a team of Stampin' Up demonstrators who are based in Australia, and the Pootlers is the team to which I belong, and we are based in Europe. I'm actually based in the UK. We had a massive blog hop, which took place on Sunday the 4th of December 2016. And if you want to see what we all got up to, then the link is underneath my video here, and if you want to see how I made this, stay with me and I will show you. Here are the things that I'm going to be using today. I have my card base, which is a piece of crumb cake, and it's 4 inches by 11.5 and folded at 5 3/4. I've got a piece of crumb cake DSP from the neutral stack, and that is 3 3/4 by 5.5, and I'm probably going to use it that side up, I think. I've got a scrap of soft sky, which is, I think it's about 5 inches by 3 3/4, something like that. And I've also got another piece of crumb cake that I'm going to be stamping on. I'm going to be stamping with this set, which is Sunshine Sayings. And I've got my hardwood stamp and my accompanying wood grain embossing folder. I've made up a load of flowers and foliage using the botanical builders, and I'm also going to want to use my layering ovals framelets. The ink I'm going to be using is Whisper White and Crumb Cake, and I'm going to be using the craft rope trim, and here are all the flowers that I have cut with the botanical builders, and I've used pumpkin pie, rose red, tangerine tango, Bermuda bay, and for the foliage I've got mint macaron, old olive, and I think there's some garden green in here as well. Right, so those are the flowers that I've cut up with the botanical builders dies. So these are the things that I'm going to be using today to make my card. The hardwood stamp is a big chunky stamp, and I find it very difficult to try and lift it up and drop it onto the paper. So this is the way I work with it. I put it onto my surface, my table, and I will ink it up here, and I'm going to sort of rub the ink over it until I've got a nice covering. And I'm using the crumb cake ink to begin with, and here's my piece of soft sky, and I'm just going to drop that down onto the inked surface. I've got a piece of scrap paper, and this is just to stop my hands getting too inky, but too late. I'm just going to press down all over that surface. And I hope then that when I lift that away, that has given me that lovely grained surface. I want this to have a very textured, very weathered, very old paint look to it. I want it to look like a piece of wood that's been, that's been exposed to the elements for quite some time. So to get that, I have my wood grain textured impressions folder, and I've got some Whisper White ink, and I'm going to do a sort of letterpress effect with this. Now, on the front of the folder, you can see the word Sizzix and Stampin' Up. The other side of it just has, copyright Stampin' Up. You want to be putting the ink on the side that has the Stampin' Up and Sizzix logos, all right? Because otherwise you will be embossing the back of your card, and that would be wrong. And I'm going to start again. I want this piece of card to have a very textured, very weathered, very wood that's been left out in the elements for a long time kind of look to it. So to get that, I'm going to be using my wood grain textured impressions folder, and I'm going to be using some Whisper White ink. I want to put the Whisper White ink onto this panel. Now this is the one where you can see the Sizzix logo and the Stampin' Up logo, not that one, because otherwise the ink will be in the wrong place and you will not be happy. Alright, so I'm just going to take the Whisper White ink, and there's not a great deal of science to this. I'm just kind of daubing it on and rubbing it on, you know, because the more uneven and weathered looking it is, for my purposes, the better. Okay. So I'm going to put my card into my folder with the inked side up, and I'm going to close that down. Now I happen to have the Texture Boutique, which retired some time ago, and if you don't have one of these, then your Big Shot will do fine, but this is just very convenient. Now when I open that up, I've got a white overlay grain. So I'm going to take that away and give that a wipe, and the ink will just wash off with water. It's not a problem. And I'm going to do a bit more work on onto this piece of card. And the first thing I'm going to do to it is I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to cut it up into 3 pieces, and I'm going to go roughly where the planks are, and then I'm going to shape it a bit. And again, there's no science to this. I'm just cutting shapes so that because I want it to look like kind of old broken planks, but I also want the edges to be quite smooth because I want it to look like it's been near the sea and smoothed off by the sand. And yeah, as you can see, no science to it at all, just chop away. And now I'm going to get crumb cake ink and a sponge, and I'm just going to sponge these pieces. I've got a little piece of crumb cake here. I think it's about 2.5 inches by 2 inches. Side isn't really critical. And I'm going to use this to stick my driftwoody pieces onto. And I think I'm going to use some wet glue. So I'm going to put some along these 2 edges here. And I'm just going to put 2 of the pieces. Now, maybe I'm going to turn them around, or yeah. So they just like that. And then this one can go in the middle. Just like that. Okay, and that's going to be my background. I've mounted the You Are My Sunshine sentiment. 3, 2, 1. I've mounted up my stamps for my sentiment onto my clear block, and I'm using You Are My Sunshine, and I've got crumb cake ink and crumb cake card, and I am just going to stamp kind of off center because I don't want to use all of this card, and I'm going to hold that down and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there we are. And I'm going to use my ovals framelets. I want to decide now. Now I want to decide which of my ovals framelets I'm going to use. So let's have a look. And that I think is quite nice. What about the next size down? I don't want to be too big with this. I want to be quite compact and bijou mossed in. Yeah, I think that size. I think I prefer that one, so that is the size that I'm going to use. So I'm going to take that over to the big shot and I'm going to cut it out. And I'm going to do a little bit of sponging with crumb cake around the edge of the oval, just to help set it apart from what's below it. I've cut 3 pieces of the craft rope trim that are big enough to go around the front of this panel and to wrap around the back, and I'm just going to stick them on with a bit of ordinary sticky tape, the kind that you get in the stationery shop. Okay, because you don't need the expensive stuff. I mean, you can use your good tearing tape if you like, if you've got it handy and if that's what you want to use, but there isn't any need really. So how am I going to space these? So a couple of pieces of tape. I've got a length of tape stuck to the leg of my tripod, if you're wondering why I'm going off over to here to cut things, because I didn't want to be fighting with the end of the tape on camera. Okay, so how's that looking? Does that look about right? Yeah, I think so. We like 3s. Okay, and I won't bother cutting the last piece because I'm going to use all of it. Alright, so there we have it. The craft rope trim is quite thick, it's quite chunky, so I'm going to put some dimensionals onto the back of this panel so that it stands quite proud. And where's my pokey tool? Gone here. Well, I'll just use my tweezers. Much prefer my pokey tool for this job. I'll find it in a moment. Okay. So I'm just going to centre that on there. And that's pretty much completed my front panel. Now we can have the fun part of decorating. So here are all the flowers that I cut and the foliage that I cut. And oh, that was cucumber crush. And I'm just going to have a play with this and arrange it how I want it to look. I've had a bit of a play and I've picked out the elements that I want to use. So now I'm just going to glue them down. I'm going to be using my wet glue for this. And we will fast forward. All I've got left to do now is to put the bits together. So I've sponged around the edge of my panel with crumb cake because it was just too clean. And I'm going to be using the text side uppermost. Just going to fit that on to my card front. Now, because of these bits on the back, this is quite bulky, so I am going to use dimensionals. And I found my piercing tool. It had fallen off my table into the waste basket. That could have been a disaster, because I do not want to be without my piercing tool, because I use it all the time for all sorts of things that aren't really piercing. That one hasn't come loose. Come on, that's better. And that one, off you come. There you go. And right way up would be good. Oops. Stick that down so it behaves itself. There we are, it's better. And there it is. So there it is. There is my finished card, and I would really love it if you would go and check out the blog hop, start at my blog and work your way around. And if you've liked this video, then don't forget to give it a like, to share it and to subscribe. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you, and you can also visit my Facebook page and leave me a comment there if you like. I would be delighted to hear from you. But for now, I do thank you very, very much for joining me, and I hope that I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.